All right. So, it's about 2 in the morning, so I'm trying to keep my voice down, not wake people up. But one of the things that happened recently, as you can see, about an hour ago, I got these messages on Steam. And one of the things that I hate most in this world, scammers. Scammers, people doing underhanded shit, shady motherfuckers. But I feel like I haven't uploaded a video discussing these kinds of things in a long time. I think the last time might have been 3 or 4 years ago at this point. But this scam has been on the rise, and I feel like it's time to make a video about it, bring it to the attention of the public, and just kind of let things go as they do. But one of the things that I want to get into here before I kind of begin on the scam is to kind of give some background. So, lately, every time I point out things as the facts that they are, people kind of doubt me and they doubt my credentialing that I make claims to have, and they doubt that I have this background in IT and cybersecurity and all this stuff. And I feel like it's good to kind of build this up as something that people can understand. My background comes from back in the day, about 10 years ago. I got scammed repeatedly when I was in the TF2 trading scene back before the Bud crash, way back to kind of date how long ago this was. And one of the things that I do when I get kind of fucked over is I get pissed off. And when I get pissed off about something, I do research on it. And in that research, I try to better myself so I can't get fucked over again. And I'm talking about like a lot of research to the point where it eventually became something that I did so much. I had such a wealth of knowledge on, and I liked computers and video games enough that I just kind of went into that as a career field for the future. Um, so that's kind of where everything started for me. And I eventually did become very well versed in these scams and the tactics used and the ways to not only combat them, but the methods for figuring out what's real and what's fake. So, today we're going to go through this and kind of discuss what's obviously big red flags. So, one of the first big red flags is that they reached out unsolicited to me with a what I would say is pretty fair cash value offer for my items. But they also did it in a location that is not rational for like a real person to do, but that a scam account would do. The first place available on my profile for them to leave a comment was on this video. It is the biggest thing on my profile by far. It's the first place on my profile that you can access to leave a comment on. You would have to scroll all the way to the bottom of the profile to leave a comment, and I think on my profile it's friends only, which tends to drive a lot of these scams to these kinds of places. So the first step is to make sure you lock down your account. Um, if you can, don't ever accept friend requests. Like just random friend ads, just block or ignore as fast as possible if you don't understand why it's happening. Um, so that's your first step. Your second step is see what they're asking if they leave these messages. If it's unsolicited, block them and leave. Like ignore the shit out of them. It's clearly a scam. I have not been doing TF2 trading in about 7 years or something like that. So I have no reason for this guy to have reached out to me. He likely, from my understanding, probably went on backpack.tf with a bot, scraped the information from the website's kind of account value ranking system, saw that I had a decently valuable account, had some good items worth trading for, figured out what the rough value is using backpack.tf, which tells you what my account is worth vaguely. Um, and that's where he got this information. He goes to my profile from there, bam, done. He puts these two messages up using a bot, which is super obvious. Every time I get these, this is the exact format that is used. And we'll get into how I know this is a bot later, but the long and short of it is clearly a bot, and there's very easy tells that you'll be able to find later on. If something feels like it couldn't really be a person doing it, it's probably not. One of the easiest ways to tell that this was not a person doing this is that it's broken up into two messages and it's clearly within milliseconds of each other. Like this guy says, I would like to make you an offer on it, and then instantaneously gave me the cash value offer right afterwards in a separate message, which puts it as two messages rather than one, so it looks a little more legitimate on the surface level, but it's clearly not legitimate. It's clearly instantaneously sent the first and second message. So let's go to this guy's profile and we can get a little bit deeper. One of the first things we see here is that he's got an account that's 16 years old. No, it isn't. It's got a level of 125, which is not exactly impressive. Currently offline. They've got a little bit of pizzazz going on with the profile having some basic items applied for cosmetic use. Um, got some links and some nice pretty text everywhere. But it's the claims that are being made that are where this scam falls apart very quickly. The first thing is the using of your account's age and level as some kind of like weird way of showing that your account is valid and not a scam. Like that's not a metric that you can really use, in my opinion, to kind of be able to tell if an account is real and definitely not a scamming bot. Because you can definitely mess with that information. Like I'm sure that that is possible to get an account that old and have it be either a cheated broken number for the age or it's a paid kind of like, oh hey, these we sell you these accounts. I'm sure that's something that's offered. Um, but regardless of that, uh, your Steam account level comes directly from your badges, which as we can see, this guy has 160 of. Another thing to look out for, by the way, is if an account is 16 years old and it has 25 sharp-eyed stockpiler, and as you hover over it, 26 games owned, big red flag. 26 is such a small number of games for an account this old. That's insane. Like, that's big red flag. But the second thing that's a big red flag to continue on with this before we get into some of the deeper aspects, making claims about how many items you have and the number of trades you've made to prove your legitimacy, not a thing. So, in the TF2 trading kind of scene, having a lot of trades doesn't mean anything, and it kind of honestly never really did. To an uninitiated person, having a lot of trades will make you seem legitimate, but you can set up two bots to trade with each other back and forth endlessly. And you can rack up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trades, just like this guy clearly did. And it's super easy. You trade back one item back and forth a billion times if you wanted to. And you will rack up a massive number of trades made on your account, and it's just not legitimate. Any real trader worth their salt would not have made 12,000 trades. That's a very high number for the number of items this guy owns, and the actual value of the account is like it's weird. It's clearly a scam, but we don't have to get into that. What we can get into is the fact that making claims like public profile and inventory are fact checkable instantaneously. So for starters, half of the profile is public. Half of it is not. So one of the first things that we do is we scroll all the way to the bottom, right? Well, there's no comments. They're disabled. I wonder why your comments are disabled. Is it because this is a botted account and having people be able to make comments where we clearly state that you are a scammer would require human input to delete those comments, and a bot couldn't do that quite as efficiently? So it's easier to just not have it running? Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. But then the other thing is public profiles. Your games aren't visible. Like you're not public. Like, yes, we see you have 26 games. Those are definitely mostly free games, and then like one paid game that you spent money on Steam for. Because in order to be able to trade on Steam, you need to have a fully active Steam account, which I think back in the day was $10. It might be like 20 or something now. I don't know what it actually is. I've been an active Steam account for a long time, and I've never had to deal with that ever again. But like clearly, you are not for fucking real, because these badges are in order of acquisition, meaning the most recent thing this account has done in any capacity that involves a badge is buying a game. And what we're going to do now is we're going to click on badges, because this is where the whole scam falls apart instantly, and you can tell this is a bot. So, for starters, the last game purchased was on the 13th of January, and then every single badge after it was acquired on December 31st, 2024 at 5:32 p.m. And that's on my time, so it'll convert to your local time. But it's like Ubermosh, 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 Ubermosh. Like, these are clearly the games that a paid kind of account service for building your Steam level, because it'll ship you as many cards as you want to make those badges. There's like big intentional services to increase your Steam level, because I don't know, people think it's like a legitimizer of some sort, and it's just not. But like all of these are like acquired simultaneously at about the same time over and over and over again. Like these are all at 8:33 p.m. on December 30th, and then if you just keep going, it's just like they're all one after another at exactly the same time. That is a telltale sign of a bot having done this, especially with an account that is supposedly 16 years old. Like, really, dude? Like, you couldn't be any less legitimate if you tried. And then one of the last things we're going to do here is I'm going to show you 10 groups, right? But these are all places where scammers will obviously congregate because it makes them look legitimate, like Newgrounds. Okay, yeah, that's a place from back in the day that old heads like me will remember. Critscast, that's another place from back in the day. I don't think Critscast is even active anymore. I think they haven't been active for like 6 or 7 years. I think it was like 2019 when they stopped being active. Like, they haven't been around for a while, but some old heads might remember them. Funky, that's a name a lot of people will remember. Uncle Dane, like, yeah, okay, these are names and things people will remember from the Team Fortress 2 world. But these are all clearly groups that are like centric to TF2 and CS:GO, and places where this guy's going to be wanting to land his scam, rather than places that anybody would actually be hanging out. Like, really, honestly, Steam groups don't mean as much as they used to back in the day. There's a few groups out there that still do stuff, like Manly Creatures posts something every once in a while, and Anime Fan Group, where I do the curations every other week. I mean, we post like giveaways and stuff, but like we really don't get that much activity out of it. Like, honestly, we influence some viewership on games when we post about new ones and stuff, and we write those reviews, but that's about it. Like, community interaction is very low on much of these Steam groups. Like, sometimes in the comments and discussions page, but like, it's a lot of bots, honestly. Just to be honest, with like a lot of that, it's a lot of bots. But it doesn't really matter, because it's supposed to add an air of legitimacy to this guy's profile, which all it ends up doing is making it look more suspicious to me. But to somebody who's less well versed, it will be very hard to tell for them, because these are things that make an account look real at face value, but you have to really be able to dig and think critically about what really makes an account active versus kind of a bot trying to look like a person. And not everybody's going to be able to do that. But I'm here today to tell you, if you see these kinds of things and you get those kind of messages, this is how you can tell. You can look for these kinds of telltale signs, look for time and date discrepancies, like are things happening all at the same time, or is this 16-year-old account showing activity for 16 years? Do they look like they've existed for that long? Like if you're playing games on PC for 16 years and you only have 26 games, red flag. Immediate red flag. If your whole account on Steam after 16 years is only talking about buying and selling TF2 items, big fucking red flag. If you are that and you don't link back to your main account, like if it's a mule account for holding your extra TF2 items, that makes sense. But those kinds of people that do that kind of big, large-scale TF2 item trading that need mule accounts to handle the excess of items, they link back to their main account in their kind of about them section, and this guy does not, because he's obviously a bot. And the long and short of it is that's kind of where that all really comes from, and that's kind of like the ways that you can detect these very quickly. And as always, make sure you go and you block them and you report them. And all you have to do is hit report, involved in theft, scamming, and fraud. And either this one for if you think that it's an account that was taken over and repurposed, or item theft and scamming. And it's super easy. You just mention everything that I just brought up, the fact that they're offering off platform kind of buying and selling, where Valve kind of leaves you to the wolves because you engaged in activity that was kind of, frowned upon. Like, hey, if you leave Steam and you take a cash offer and you get scammed and they don't send you the money, Valve's not responsible. We tell you in our terms of service, no going off platform to sell your items. Do it on Steam or we won't protect you. So if you stay on Steam and do it, you can be protected. You can get your items back. Everybody can be safe. You do it off Steam, you get sent money on Cash App or PayPal or whatever, and you get scammed, you will not have any guarantees. You will lose the items and the money, you're screwed. So never do that, honestly. Unless you know the person in real life, just don't do it. It's that easy. But in summation here, you don't have to have a background in this stuff to be able to spot bullshit when you see it. I didn't at first. I got scammed a bunch, and eventually I made a profession out of making sure that I and other people don't get fucked over like this. So, um, if you know someone who needs to hear this stuff, tell them about it. But in the end of the day, this is kind of how it happens. You gotta be vigilant. You gotta be you know keeping an eye on things and making sure you're putting two and two together and getting four. So with that, have a good one.